the line has been drawn in the sand that we're not going to defund the police. We are going to fund law enforcement in the state of Texas because our citizens, that's one of the primary responsibilities, is to have those duties. And thank you for your service. You know, my family appreciates you being here, your presence. I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate what you're doing. So thank you. And one of the guys, he looked at me and he just said, well, it's nice to hear that because most people don't say that these days.
Welcome back, Tmpa viewers, watchers, viewers. We got a really cool guest. Before we dive into that, you guys hit that subscribe button. I'm Tyler Owen, Clint McNear. Man, it's been a busy week. Yeah. Good morning. Rough night last night. We had a little good time. Had a guest on and went and had dinner with him. We got a guest on today that's a good friend, a good man, and just a damn good Texan. Comptroller Glenn Hegar.
Good to be with you all today.
Welcome to Blue Grit, man.
Little tight quarters. I like that this morning. That's awesome.
Yeah, I could put my arm around you. But
hey, that's all right.
I probably had the state security team coming in here and going, hey, what the hell's going on?
Karen's going to get you from the corner over there.
Absolutely. Well, man, let's just dive on to it.
Sounds great.
Where'd you grow up at?
Yeah, so I grew up in a little community, not so little anymore, Hockley, Texas, northwest out of Houston. Highway 290, people travel in and out of Houston. If you blink, you miss it. That's how big it was when people drive through there. Not so much today. You know, suburbia is growing. We grow 1,000 people, 1,200 people a day in Texas. Hard to imagine that much growth have for the last decade and continue will. People want to come here for an economic opportunity. But long story short, my family moved out there in the 1840s. And so my line got there in 1846, grew up on a family farm operation. Me and my dad, my cousin, and a whole lot of uncles, which was really a great working environment as a young kid. You were working early. Yeah. When I was in college, for example, you know, I kind of make the comment sometimes my friends, they went off for spring break wherever they went to, and I went back to Hockley, Texas. So I got to work on the farm. Either it was, you know, Christmas, spring break, summers, but it taught me a really good work ethic, and I think, you know, I can't think of a better environment, and also kind of problem solving. Yeah. You know, the old jokes in agriculture, well, duct tape and baling wire. Well, we used our fair share. Sometimes you just got to figure out how to solve the problem, and it may not be the best idea, but you get through the day. So anyway, grew up out there. Well, after going to school, decided to move back home, worked with the family. My wife and I, she grew up in the Katy area, which is where we call home. And I, you know, decided to wanted to run for office one day, and I've been around the Austin process ever since then.
Did you start at the local level and then go?
Yeah, so after we got finished with college and moved back home, decided that's where our support network was from. Our families actually knew each other. We didn't know each other till we met in college, but our families did, because, you know, back then there was nobody that lived out on the Katy Prairie in that west area. And so
it's not related.
Yeah, not related. They knew each other, but we weren't related, thankfully. So we stopped there. Yeah. So anyway, we moved back to Katy. I went back to work with the family, and for whatever reason, it's kind of like a lot of us in life. You know, you think about what do you want to do, and you really think about the family members because that's what you know they do. But anyway, the bottom line is, for some reason, I always thought I wanted to serve in some capacity. Never knew where, never knew if it would happen. But the fact is, my family, they voted, but that was about it. They were not involved in politically in any shape, form, or fashion. Nobody ever ran for office. And so I ran originally after the redistricting process of 2001, when there was a brand new legislative district created for Waller County, part of Fort Bend, and Wharton County were the three counties. And so I ran for that seat. We had no children. My wife and I worked really hard, door to door, campaign day after day, and ended up, you know, coming out on the top side of 5 people in that primary on primary election night. True story, had to stay up till about 2:30 in the morning. We waited for the very last precinct to come in to find out, of the top 3 people, which of the 2 were in the runoff. Oh. And so my home county voted for me overwhelming because the family had been there. My grandfather was Baptist preacher, one of the communities. They knew all, you know, the family.
Was it on your dad's side? Because I think that matters for the last name.
Yeah, it does. So you know, everybody knew from an agriculture community, the dad's side, but mom's side, my grandfather was a Baptist preacher. So, you know, a lot of connections in the community. And so, you know, I know a lot of people probably supported me because of those family connections. But the bottom line was, you know, didn't do as well in some of the other counties, and understandably so. But literally, we had to wait till 2:30 in the morning, the last precinct to come in, who was in the runoff, because one had 29, one had 28, and one had 27.
Oh, wow.
And so got in the runoff, won the runoff, served for 4 years. My state senator decided not to run for re-election, and I decided one of 31 versus one of 150. I'm going to run for the Senate, did not have seniority built up in the House, and served there for a while. So, I've been really blessed. It's a great part of the state of Texas, and now serving statewide. You get to travel the state a lot, give a lot of speeches, go see communities on different tours about the economics aspects of the state. And it is a remarkable state. Really, Texas, whether you're in the Panhandle, the Valley, West Texas, Northeast, Southeast Texas, it's just everything's a little bit different. So it's a great opportunity, and I love to see the state and get to see the people across the state, because we've got a lot of good folks in the state. We've got a lot of really good, hardworking people.
And it's just, it's huge. I mean, you don't really think about how big Texas is. I mean, we're a statewide police association. I live in East Texas, and Clint lives up in the DFW area. But, I tell people all the time they're going to go for vacation, and we're going to go to Florida. Now, I was like, man, Texas is so big. It's huge. I don't know why people just don't stay here.
Yeah, I joke in some of my speeches. I tell folks, if anybody in this room wants to run statewide, I need you to come talk to me first, because it's a lot bigger than you think it is. And I guess I didn't appreciate that until when I ran for statewide in this position. My staff, who was working for my campaign team, said, every week you need to take a day or two off. And I was like, we don't stop till we're finished. And I grew up that way. I think after about a month, I said, okay, I think I need a day off. And it just, traveling in the car, it's brutal, and it's a big state, but it's awesome to see. It's really remarkable, and every area is a little bit different, which is pretty cool. We're really a combination of a whole bunch of states in a way.
So your first role was as a state rep?
Yeah, it was a state rep.
How old were you?
Oh man, I think I got elected when I was 31 years old. I had no gray hair back then. The world has changed. 2 things called being elected office and 3 teenage kids. It'll do it to you. So
Highlights.
I see those highlights over there. I got highlights too. I can tell you much. But yeah, I was in the Texas House of Representatives, and one of the committees that I originally served on when I was there was in the law enforcement committee. And so nobody in my family had been in law enforcement immediately, as in my mom or my dad's side. Like I said, either Baptist preaching or in agriculture in some way. But I got on the committee. I loved the committee. It was really interesting work. Some of the interesting challenges and issues that your members face on every single day. So while I was in the House, I did law enforcement committee for those 4 years. And then when I moved to the Senate, I decided I wanted to continue that in the criminal justice committee. And so I was over on the criminal justice issues for many years. And it's really interesting, the complexity of issues that the members have. And even though I may not deal in those areas every single day, it gave me a basic framework of some of the various issues that, your members face, which we as citizens face, and the challenges. Say, for example, I brought this up not too long ago because we're dealing with, in my office, we have the opioid money that's been brought to the state of Texas, and trying to deal with that very real issue. And just in the last couple of years, as that we're standing that office up to distribute those monies with our board members, the fact is now it's much more, instead of opioid as in prescription drugs, it's fentanyl. Yeah. And one pill literally kills kids. And that's changed just in the last couple of years. But back to when I was first in the House, one of those issues that we had to deal with was methamphetamines. And so, trying to come up with a reasonable way to figure out how do you take drugs people can get prescription, as in, for antihistamine, and move it behind the counter, which helps solve the problem that your members are having to deal with, because they don't even know what they're walking into. They walk into some house or lab. Well, you don't know how toxic this stuff is. Yeah. And your members come in and testify that literally lung capacity has decreased because they walked into something they didn't know and didn't have the proper breathing equipment on. And so by doing that, we helped solve the problem. But unfortunately, it just started coming over from Mexico and other countries, which was even more toxic.
We had a Border Patrol vice president, their local or their national association on a couple weeks ago. And he talked about a wild story, and to think about it, he described it as a parade.
Yeah.
And he said the areas down there, the local communities, it doesn't really affect them. But watching it pass by is kind of how he depicted it. And he also had a really good analogy of, almost like a sink overflowing.
Yeah.
You would stop the water and then clean it up. And he said it's just flowing. It's overflowing, and it's horrible. And so, anyway.
The scary part of his episode was I think he said last year there was 161 different countries represented that they interdicted.
No,
and the general public thinks, oh, it's just Hispanics coming over to pick crops, and he's got Russians and Ukrainians and Chinese, and I'm thinking
Saudis.
I doubt the people from Iran and some of those countries are coming to pick crops.
That's right. And, for families like mine who have for a decade and a half have a ranch down over in Maverick County, which the town next to us is Eagle Pass. People have heard about that community all the time. And, with my son, we go hunting a lot. I grew up outdoors. I love the outdoors. I take my girls some, but they don't like to go to kind of man camp as much as he does. They're like, yeah. I'll take a little nicer facilities, but that's okay. I understand. I respect that. But, so we spend a lot of time down there, and it's good one-on-one opportunities. And, we had a lot of plumbing problems the other week. And so I was telling some folks, I said, he may not be state certified plumber, but at 14, by God, he's dad certified. So he's learned a lot out there, so we do things. But where I'm coming to with this story is the point is in the last 2 years, up until a couple years ago, we knew people walked through, but we never saw anybody.
Right.
And then just the explosion of the traffic. And then when you have, cameras or you see people and they're dressed in either black outfits and or camo with big backpacks, those people aren't coming here to work.
Yeah.
They're moving drugs. And so,
it's an intimidating sight to see.
It's a very intimidating sight, and it's one to where,
and you're seeing those on your,
and we see those coming through our place, and, and so I'm having to have this discussion with literally a 12-year-old trying to explain the difference. Okay, these people, it looks like we don't know, maybe come in here and they want to work, where these people, we don't want to mess with them.
Yeah.
They are being tracked from one side to the other side with GPS in the backpacks, and, we don't want to cross their paths. And, if you're out at night, you don't know what position you're going to be in. And then to think about you're traveling through, one day, I just remember like it was yesterday, driving around. I'm driving, and I look to the left, and I see somebody, and I kind of stop and trying to figure, what is this real quick? Well, it was 2 Border Patrol. And so I stopped, said, hey, they said, we're tracking somebody through here. And I said, they probably went this way. This is the direction, I have no doubt. And so as we're talking, I said, well, how many years have you been a Border Patrol agent? How many years of service? And where are you stationed out of? Well, we're here in this and so many years. And I said, well, thank you for your service. My family appreciates you being here, your presence. I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate what you're doing. So thank you. And one of the guys, he looked at me and he just said, well, it's nice to hear that because most people don't say that these days.
Wow.
And they're trying to keep law and order.
Yeah.
And I promise you, they meant that.
And when we drove off, I told my son, I said, did you hear what they said? Both of them have been a Border Patrol agent for 13 years. And to tell me thank you for saying thank you because they don't hear it. So, that all that kind of comes back to originally being in law enforcement committee and just kind of hearing the stories of what people have to deal with every day, and just simply telling somebody thank you. I don't like getting stopped on the side of the road if I happen to speed a little too much, but or tell somebody thank you for the service they're doing because they don't know what they're walking up to every single time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, you've certainly been a friend of us for a long time. I happen to be going by some YouTube videos the other day, and I guess it was probably 10, 12 years ago. It says senator on the video, but what did TMPA interest you, or was it the fact that you were on so many committees dealing with criminal justice? Is that kind of how you knew about TMPA and the relationship built?
Yeah, the relationship built from originally serving on the committee in the House. And so obviously y'all have a presence in that committee, built up a relationship with some of the members back then and got to know some folks in my district. And so that's where really the strong relationship built. And, and it's the one that I've appreciated over the years. And obviously the engagement in this role is not to the same level that it is in the legislature because maybe our paths don't cross very often, even though I got one that we've been dealing with very recently that does. But the fact is, that relationship really built because of people coming, testifying, getting to know people, and understanding that they're wanting to make the condition for their members better and making sure that their members are able to actually do their job, which is keep our community safe.
I actually just thought about this. You have served on the House, now the Senate, and now you hold a state office.
Yeah.
To our members, watchers, who are watching this YouTube, I messed up a couple weeks ago, and I'm never going to let it down because I said viewers, voyeurs, watchers. To our members who watch our YouTube channel and listen to our podcast, can you kind of give an explanation or an overview of really just how significant or how important TMPA's voice is at the Capitol? Because you've got that unique perspective of working the House, the Senate, and then now being a state office.
I can't underestimate the importance. I mean, the fact is of one, and I'll give you one example. When I ran for the legislature originally, I will never forget that I went to the local MHMR facility there in Fort Bend County. And one of the ladies said, well, do you know anything about mental health issues? And in front of me was a piece of paper, blank piece of paper. And I said, well, actually, I imagine I'll be touched like everybody is at some point in time. But if you hold up this piece of paper, I'm going to show you. I said, this is how much I know about it. And she told me that for several years. She said, oh, my gosh, it was like I can tell him whatever I want to because we're starting fresh. And most of us come to this building, as in the Capitol, as a legislator or as a staffer. Yeah. Don't underestimate staff relationships because staff does most of the work. I mean, they're getting bills drafted or communication or tell the legislator what they need or appointments for meetings or whatever that may be. And so the point is most of us come with a blank sheet of paper on other than what we know, and so therefore having a presence here in the Capitol and having those relationships, you can't underestimate how important they are. And what's amazing, tonight I'm going to have dinner with some of the new freshman members, and I was telling some of my staff, I do that every year. I try to go have dinner with the new members, and you just start a relationship. I mean, I don't know these folks. Yeah. They don't know me. And, you think, oh, well, they're just some freshmen. Well, in a few years, they might be the chair of the committee that your members deal with.
That's right.
And I tell people all the time, because they go, well, what is the best way we should be engaged? And I said, the first and foremost is the brand new legislator in your district who you think is not important because they're just, they're not the speaker, they're not the lieutenant governor, they're not the chair of the committee. They will be in a few years.
That's right.
And so, they don't have, and I usually hold up my phone kind of jokingly sometimes. I go, when I first started, I had no numbers in here. I had no friends in here except, my wife and Cora. Right now, I don't need no more numbers. I mean, I'm joking, but I have a lot of relationships. I've got to meet people over the years. And so then those people don't have those relationships, and if you get to meet somebody one-on-one, it's just amazing the bonds you can form. And because there are times as members of the legislature, you're trying to figure out how do I want to vote on this, or what are the questions I should ask? And if you don't know, guess what you do? You pick up the phone of the people that you trust.
Yeah. And that's one thing when we're out speaking with members is, we tell them we have a legal plan. So if you shoot somebody, we're going to help you get an attorney. We provide training. We have sexy training we provide. And the third thing that we do is our legislative efforts. And it's not sexy, it's not people, but the relationships that we build are so important because if we know each other and trust each other, even if we disagree next year on an issue, we have a relationship enough that we can navigate through it and build through it because that's Clint and, that's Tyler and that's Glenn, and we can work it out because we've always worked it out. But if you don't know each other, or it's surface, or every time we deal with each other, it's just for us to walk in and tell you, by God, you're going to do this, and if you don't, we're going to vote you out of office. You're never going to accomplish. I mean, it's counterproductive completely.
I think it is, and it's about relationship to trust and what people want to be able to do. And when I say people, I mean legislators. Okay, in my opinion, is I want to know and be able to have a relationship with somebody that I trust in my district.
Yeah,
because those are the people that I represent. Now it's a little different for me because I represent the whole state of Texas, so everybody's my district. But back then, while I appreciate hearing you, I want to hear from the TPA member in my district because they're on the front line in whatever community or city, and they're the ones that are engaging. And so not to say that it's, I want to hear but you want those relationships. And so I think that's why it's critical to be engaged in the process, because I tell people all the time, if you're not sitting at the table, somebody else is sitting at the table in your place.
Yep.
And they may not have the same values and interests that you do. And it's important to have that cross-section. Yeah. It really is important.
I'm glad we touched on that because about 2 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with a member, and his perception of our PAC was it's just an endorsement list. And I was like, man, it's so much deeper than that. It's so broader, really, than that. I'm glad you touched on that about relationships. And, we monitor all the bills coming out, what's good for law enforcement, what's not. And then you have to realize that regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, we kind of have to we have to have an agreement, and you have to have relationships to agree on certain things and disagree on others.
And you know, and I will say over the years, it's not as though I've been in lockstep with everything that TMPA agreed with.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple things we disagreed on, but we continued to have a good relationship as there are things we can agree to disagree on. And there was a couple over the years, you know, we just disagreed, and that's okay. But I mean, the fact is most decisions in life are not just one decision. They're a whole totality of decisions. Right. So, you know, you agree to disagree on a few and you move on to the next.
Yeah.
So our listeners understand, everybody kind of knows what a governor does, or everybody has an idea of what they think a state rep does. I think a lot of people will be shocked to hear just how involved the Texas State Comptroller position is.
Yeah,
what's your role?
Real quick. I like to talk about my constitutional duties, because that, you know, is the highest, most important things that we have to, and then whatever state statute, the laws that the legislature passed that are not in the Constitution. But state constitution wise, I run the state treasury. So right now the state budget is astonishing $126 billion.
That's just one checkbook.
Just one
not
checkbook.
a big deal.
Yeah. I mean,
you have that with you now?
Yeah, I do. I just didn't bring it today because I knew y'all would want some of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's 14 million payments that we issue on behalf of the state of Texas, the citizens of the state, for their state government to pay all the bills. And to put that in perspective, I kind of joke, you know, if I sat at my desk and the only thing I did was sign checks, which we don't, we electronic transfer, okay? Right. But of the 14 million payments, if I sat at my desk and I just signed checks, and I did that 40 hours a week, and I didn't take off on Good Friday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, I didn't take off any days. I just worked 40 hours, 52 weeks out of the year. I would literally have to sit there and sign 112, 114, 15 payments every 60 seconds, and that's all I did. You know, and I put that in size and scope of the volume. And then we have to make sure all the dollars are spent in accordance where they're supposed to. Yep. We have to make sure they're all accounted for, the agencies account for. So there's a lot of counting. There's a lot of make sure that the ones and ones add up. Yeah. But then also we monitor the state economy. So in other words, what's happening in this big 9th largest economy in the entire world. And when I got in this role, we were the 12th largest economy. Texas was its own nation to be the 12th. We've moved to 11, we've moved to 10, and now we're number 9 and knocking on the door to number 8, which is pretty phenomenal. And then lastly, this is the one I hedge a little bit about because my grandfather was a Baptist preacher, and I heard some of his sermons, how they stoned the tax collector in the Bible. I am the tax collector. So those are my 3 big anchors. But we handle all kinds of things. You know, I made the comment earlier about I have a council that we're the staff for, and we're helping them set up a process to where they can distribute all the opioid dollars, and whether that's going to treatment, prevention, law enforcement, and the committee is figuring out what they want of those big tiers and buckets right now as we're trying to stand that process up. Broadband. You have 7 million people in the state of Texas, and we have 30 million, almost 25% of the state's population. They may have a cell phone, but they don't actually have strong fixed internet at their home, which is pretty phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, that's so why is that? Well, I was given that office last session. So I do endangered species research. This morning I had somebody reach out.
You weren't busy enough. They're just
oh my God. Yeah. It's just it's unbelievable what they've given us over the years. You know, you walk into a convenience store or someplace, you buy tobacco, you look on and it says, you know, got to be a certain age and above, 21, and the little fancy signs. Well, we put those signs out because I have a small law enforcement division to where we work with your members out in the field on a wide variety of issues, whether it's fuel, people stealing fuel, whether it's tobacco, stamps, all these different issues that we're engaged in. And so I actually have, you know, a division of a little over 30 law enforcement officers that are scattered throughout the state of Texas. So we have our hands on the pulse of a lot of different things across the state beyond those 3 constitutional duties. It's an interesting job.
Well, it doesn't sound like it's very busy.
No.
Sleep in most mornings.
Yeah. You know, it's okay. It's just it's just a 9 to 5 job.
Mimosas, you know, home by 3 o'clock, golf course.
I had no idea. I thought I knew. I asked the question, and I thought I knew the answer, and I didn't. The breadth of issues, I mean, we could take the whole segment of just the various issues we handle. It's really interesting. I mean, like the tobacco signs that they're in there. I mean, look, you'll see Glenn Hegar on it, little bitty Glenn Hegar on the bottom. But when the first 8 years ago, when I got in this role, one of my team members brought in all these posters. And I was looking around, I was like, what are we doing with these posters? Well, long story short, the legislature got mad at another state agency that had that federal grant that was doing stings of minors buying tobacco. They didn't like the task they were doing and who they give it to, the controller's office. And so my team came in and
They wanted me to figure out the new posters. And I said, yeah, that's your job. You figure out the posters. Yeah. I'm not figuring out posters no more. But it was interesting because I didn't know we did that job. I had no idea when I ran for the office that we play a role in that and have for quite some time. So it's interesting because sometimes the legislature look around, who should we give this to? And they go, we're not really sure. Hegar will take it.
Yeah. Give it to Mike.
Yeah, exactly. So Hager's usually in the building or talking to members, those relationships. Hey, that's a great idea, but give it to somebody else.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. So speaking on budgets and speaking on law enforcement, last session, Governor Abbott came out pretty strong against the defund the police movement. Do you want to kind of expand upon that?
Yeah, so last session, the legislature, when you look around this country, there's a lot of areas to where you have movements to either defund, and I would imagine, we all know, if someone has psychological mental issues, they need a mental health expert.
Yeah.
But the first front line person who's there is typically, because of a domestic violence call, is going to be one of your members.
Yeah.
And so, but the fact is, the mental health person isn't going to get called to show up to the door where there's domestic violence. Now, that's the next phase, and so I understand part of the point of let's make sure people get real treatment, but we got to give you all the tools because your members are going to be the ones that first show up.
Yeah.
And we need that safety. But so you see this around the country, and, unfortunately, we have a lot of very serious issues. And in this state, the line has been drawn in the sand that we're not going to defund the police. We are going to fund law enforcement in the state of Texas because our citizens, that's one of the primary responsibilities, is to have those duties. And so the legislature last session figured, okay, if a county or a city essentially from one budget to the next defunds the police, lowers the funding, at least from a county perspective, you can file a complaint with the governor. Then the governor looks at it, they think there's something valid, and they send it to my office. And then my office makes the final determination. And this came up last year with the budgeting process in Harris County. Now, it was a little complicated because they were moving from a 12-month budget to a 7 because they were realigning part of the year when they start their budget. But, math doesn't have to be complex.
Right.
And they looked at it as a convoluted process to where, well, we're going to do pay periods and we're going to kick one out and we're going to put you in this category and this category. And we just said, okay, well, 7 months. Divide it by 7, multiply it times 12. I don't know. You can convert it to 12 pretty quick.
Yeah,
it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Real simple.
Yeah.
Why make it complex? Make it simple. And so the long short of it is when my authority comes in is when they have a proposed budget, which can change. Mm-hmm. Then it is adopted and then it is implemented. This is the new implemented budget. And so when it's being proposed, I felt like it was imperative that we tell the county, hey, according to our math, real simple, you are defunding the constable's offices, as with the complaint that was to the governor that got sent to me. And so anyway, long story short, we agreed after they sued us, yes, which I said all along. I'm giving you notice because I think I should not to wait until you implement it. Well, they've implemented it. As a result, we've had a new complaint sent to us, and we've determined, no, they have still defunded the police, the constable's office. This one particular constable's office that's complained, it's over $2 million. And in fact, they cannot increase their tax rate as the law requires. There's no new tax rate increase. It has to stay at the current tax rate unless they properly fund. Now, I've always said, I think the best way to resolve this is a local solution.
Yep.
Have dialogue between the local's office, the county budget, and just resolve the issue. It should be a local issue resolved. And that's what I encouraged months ago. And now that we're implemented the budget and they're partway through the budget and we got another complaint to officially make a determination, we made a ruling that, yes, they have, and I think they need to be corrected. And the citizens in that community, they want the law enforcement present. That's what they want.
Yeah, especially Harris County. It's gotten out of hand. And there's not a whole lot of leadership. Well, let me back up. The leadership within Harrison County at the Commissioner's Court, which would be Judge Hidalgo, has made kind of a history of seeming to be anti-law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And so now you tell her, hey, or you tell her in the Commissioner's Court, you guys are in violation. If you move forward with this, it's illegal. And yet they continue to do it.
Well, which was stunning to me because I try really hard. Let's figure out what the problem is and let's solve it. And, you know, I was really disappointed, and I knew this was probably going to be the process. I tried not to play the media game and get out in the media and, oh, you're doing this. I just want it solved. I mean, and that's what the citizens want.
That's right.
They just want it solved. They don't want, oh, is Glenn saying rhetoric, Clint and Tyler, and whose rhetoric's better? I mean, people get tired of that crap.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really tired of this social media headline stuff when they just want the work done, man.
That's right.
That's what they want.
That's what they elected you to do.
That's what they think. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
And so that was my frustration, because I felt like, you know, very seriously, the county was playing games media-wise to try to tell the story. Oh, no, we have funded. Well, yeah, if you pretend your math adds up, which it doesn't with this convoluted process, there's no way. The math is simple. I mean, I don't know about you, but 1 + 1 is 2. I mean, I may have grew up on a family farm, but I know that much.
Yeah, that's
I mean, it's not 4.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Well, and the citizens will appreciate you, because the easy thing would be to stay out of it and just say it's a local issue. I'm not going to mess with it. That's the easy thing to do.
Right,
but
right.
To take care of the citizens and ensure they're funded, and people want police service. And we saw defunding. That experiment failed, and people in Minneapolis are realizing the failed experiment. Seattle's realizing. So we're appreciative that you are not going to sit on the sideline.
Well, it's interesting, because a lot of these cities that have gone down that path, they have started to backtrack because the citizens have said, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
When you have the lawlessness, or you have law enforcement members are able to arrest somebody, charge them, have the documentation, but then the district attorney doesn't want to take the case and go to the next level, well, then the person's going to get back out.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand we want to make sure our prisons, our jails have those that are really tough offenders, but if you set a limit at X amount and below, well, guess what? If it's $500, they're smart. They're going to go steal $490 worth.
Yeah, exactly.
And then go steal another $490 and another $490. Well, I don't know about you, but that's almost $1,500 in 3 times. It's a simple way to get around it.
Right.
And so those things, I'm glad that citizens in other states and some of these jurisdictions are realizing, whoa, we got a real problem. I mean, when you have Walgreens, CVS, these, box stores that are leaving communities because they just have, the run in and grab and bag and go out the door, those are real problems.
Yeah.
Citizens can't actually get their services because of the lawlessness, and that's just unacceptable.
Thankfully, it's not as prevalent in Texas, I don't think.
That's right.
But
we need to make sure it stays that way.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's why people move here, because for an economic opportunity. But when their situations like that exist, they are not going to be in this state.
No.
We're going to be those other states. And that's why we have to draw a line in the sand and say, no, this is unacceptable, and we're not going to go down that path.
Well, and some of the rhetoric, some of the theory and the rhetoric sounds really good till it's implemented.
Right.
Everything theft under $750 is acceptable. I've got a ranch and farming background like you. It says it's under $750 as long as it's necessary items. Well, there's a whole lot of stuff at Tractor Supply and Bass Pro Shop that are necessary. I mean, that's up
right.
to $740. As long as I'm free and clear, it doesn't make any sense.
That's
That
right.
Makes,
That's right.
That makes no sense.
And then, as a catch tagline, the first piece, you go, oh, well, maybe that makes sense. Well, then you got to peel the next layer of the onion back. And you peel the next layer and you go, ooh, there's a lot of problems with this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Yeah, it's good to be with y'all this
morning. You are a very, very, very important man, and for you to take time out of your busy schedule.
Let me just say, I've always appreciated the relationship, the friendship. The fact is, there's times where, like I said, we've agreed on a lot. A couple times we disagree, but you know what? We continue to have dialogue, and I appreciate y'all's presence and what you do in the state of Texas.
Greatly appreciate it, man.
Well, and I think that's important. You spouse may disagree, but it doesn't mean you get a divorce. You shake hands and keep on moving on down the road.
Figure out how to get through this.
Yep. We always want to maintain the professional relationships and the friendships and the network. And you taking your time out to come down this morning is awesome.
Good to be with you all again. Thanks.
You think he's worthy of the rapid fire questions that we hit the other?
Yeah, we can do that. I like that.
All right.
Fire away.
So we ask every guest rapid fire 3 questions. Favorite cop movie or line from a cop movie? Usually it's best police vehicle, so any vehicle
that you think is the best
vehicle.
I've got faith in you on this one.
And best drink or adult refreshment when you relax?
Man, okay, the best drink is easy. That's just bourbon neat. So I enjoy bourbon. I drink Makers a lot, but I really enjoy a whole wide variety. I tell you, Jefferson's on the Ocean.
Yes.
That one's hard to beat.
Yes.
That's hard to beat.
Yeah.
That is the bomb. Police car. Oh man, I love a motorcycle. I don't ride a motorcycle anymore. I did when I was in college. I promised my grandparents I'd sell it when I got out of college because I couldn't hardly get there, and I did. And I was just telling the kids the other day, I said, man, don't ride a motorcycle, but it's pretty cool. But I don't know, I like the classics. If you look back at some of the old Chip movies, the old 1970s or Starsky and Hutch,
Yes.
those are kind of cool. Okay, the classics. And then the line, man, there's too many of them. Oh my gosh, they're like all flowing through my head. I can't pick one. There's a whole bunch of them. There's a lot of good movies out there.
Yep. Well, this about wraps it up, dude.
All right, good to be with you guys.
Man,
Thanks
you so
a lot.
much
Thanks for
coming
the
on.
time.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
you guys hit that subscribe button on YouTube and on Buzzsprouts, which also distributes our podcast information. And stay safe. Clint, you got anything else?
Nope. God bless Texas. Appreciate you, everybody out there that's tuned in.
Absolutely.